That's a group of, and one thing that we do as in-home team is we do bring a team of inspectors out. So it's not just one person going out, it's gonna be two. That way we can get inspection done in less than 2 hours and get that, and we're also using iPads, we're using that to get the completely input, get everything ready, so that way you're gonna get your inspection usually that evening. We always say, you know, give us 24 hours, but almost always, how many times have we not sent one out?
It's only when they
Yeah.
get angry
Yeah,
for
because-
something, yeah, but yeah, we can have the same thing.
Right, but so it's really key elements to be talking about. And one thing I wanted to cover, it's not just about us, it's about what, when you are looking for home inspectors, what you should be asking those questions. Okay, so, I always say the realtor needs to be thinking about the same qualities that the client would want as well. So, what in a home inspection company do you want? You want ease of scheduling. So you want to be able to call or go online and be able to schedule that. Hopefully within 48 hours, you should hopefully be able to get that in. Again, longevity and stability about home inspections. How long have they been available? Again, kind of talking about that. How long has that company been in effect? And also, I think here's a real key one. Reports are clear and concise. So our philosophy is we want to make them easy to read so you can understand them and not be doom and gloom. Everything can be fixed. So we can provide some of that information in there. Yes, there's an opportunity, and we will do a recommendation about having a professional come out and look at the roof or whatever it needs to be done. But we will do that clearly, but in a way that everyone can understand. And then, of course, again, talk about professional demeanor and knowledge. So this is all what the clients want. So this is, again, what you're going to be wanting if you are representing them. So, what inspections do I need? And this is kind of what we really want to be talking about. What inspections are needed when someone gets under contract? So we've got many different ones. We have our whole house, and then all of these other ones down here that we're going to talk about. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to turn it over to our inspector who's going to talk about the different home inspections that we do and why you want a whole house inspection and why you may add some of the others as well.
So whole house inspection, that's gonna be where we take a look at the entire home. We're gonna start at the roof and work our way down. We bring in a team, so we have an inside guy and an outside guy. The outside guy is gonna be looking at structure, roof, HVAC. The inside person is going to check all the outlets, open doors, open cupboards, look around inside of stuff. The idea is that we go through everything, and then you get this report that has everything on it. The thing I will say is we're on a path, so when I come to a house, I'm gonna take a look at all 4 sides, walk around the outside, I'm gonna go in the attic. Once I'm done with the attic, I'm probably gonna take apart your electrical panel. Done with the electrical panel, I'm gonna go look at your HVAC system. The guy on the inside is doing the same thing. He's got a path. He starts in the kitchen. He's gonna walk over, he's gonna test the water, make sure that we got hot water there. To test, the first one is testing the water heater itself. Do we have hot water? Yes. Okay, good. Now we have to check hot water everywhere, because if you want to really get to know one of your clients, let them have a shower that only goes up to 72 degrees of water. They will be your friend until you fix that for them. So each of our guys has a path. That's why we have the iPads. We're actually writing a report as we go through the house. And the whole house, that's for the client. This tells you, this is the condition of my house that I'm gonna purchase. Again, what Brock said about the non-threatening part is we go into this saying, hey, listen, there are things. Every house has a buyer. Every house will have somebody that wants it. I did a house one time that I went up onto the roof with strong roofing, and you could literally drop a basketball, because the guy says, hey, I don't care if you go on my ladder, because don't step on the roof. Get up to the top of it, you can drop a basketball to dirt through 2 stories. Every house has a buyer. This house right now is going for, it's broke into 3 units, and they're $1,000 a night downstairs. So it did just fine when they got done fixing it. So the idea of a non-threatening report and a non-threatening discussion with your client is because everything can be repaired fixed and brought up to the standards that they want. So having your inspector not scare that person to the point where they run away, it's important. So our whole house inspection is gonna look at the entire house. That is really for the client to get a good assessment of their house. Insurance inspection, so for instance, we're gonna recommend you can do a wind vent and a 4-point. If somebody asks, we'll do a roof search, or usually by request, we're not going to suggest they can get that. But 4-point inspections, if you think of those as a pass-fail for the house, it's a form built by Citizens Insurance. We go through the form, we fill it out for you, and if there's things that we find in that, they have to be fixed before the house is insured. Wind mitigations on the other side are more of a benefit to the client, because the more the house is set up for protection from a hurricane, the more credits you get. And each one of those is a credit against your homeowner's insurance, and that's all mandated by actually the state of Florida. Roof certifications, if we go out and do a roof cert, that's just because somebody said, my roof, the insurance agent tells me I have to give a certification, a citizen's roof certification for this because there's questions about my roof, and we'll do those. Pre-listing inspections, when the market's slow, you guys are having problems. Sometimes there's things you can do to differentiate your house on the marketplace. Pre-listing inspection does that job for you. If you do the whole house pre-listing inspection, sometimes they won't want an inspection. Sometimes they'll bring in another inspector to compare the two, because everybody knows we're in cahoots with you guys and we like to even though it doesn't work that way. I mean, there's just no way for any company that I know to be able to do that. But the pre-listing inspection will allow you to differentiate yourself from the marketplace. So especially if the market's a little slow, you already have a home inspection that you can set on the table and say, hey, look, this is what Home Team said about it. So that can be real handy. The other thing is, because a 4-point is pass-fail, you have to fix things. Sometimes just getting the 4-point's not a bad idea on a pre-listing. And that way, if you have that, you can say, listen, I can give you this. All they'll do is change the name at the top, and you can apply for insurance with this with the 4-point. So either one of those, there's some advantages to them. New construction.
Can I just, and Heather, how long does sometimes someone have time? Say we just did a 4-point for a client, and now someone else is coming to buy it. How long do they have to maybe do a transfer on a 4-point, or is there anyone?
So most of the time, the 4-point has to be in the client's name. We have a few carriers that doesn't matter, but you want to, as soon as you get contracted, you want to get a 4-point, because if there's issues on the 4-point, like you can have a passing 4-point and the water can be full. So that's one thing that we want to see it as soon as possible, because if you're going to replace those items, we're going to be able to tell you that. And a lot of times too, it'll be like corrosion on the pipe. It might not be pointed out because it's not a big deal, but the carriers will really have a fit with those as well. So the sooner the better.
That's almost a new thing in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been, corrosion on pipes is not new, but
Yeah,
yeah,
gotten
they started
big.
getting really excited about that
Yeah.
recently.
Even if there's just a little bit, they freak out.
And that's where it's really important to, when, say you now are you're under contract and you're starting your inspections, to make sure that your client has an insurance contact. They may not be able to give the final quote or anything, but they've got that person that they can call. What do I need? Do I need a 4-point and a wind vent? Or what should we be looking for? So that way, that process, again, when you're talking about getting everything done, it can be smooth, much smoother than it would be if all of a sudden they didn't have any insurance agent. So.
And that will be one thing we'll tell your clients too. Do you have an insurance agent? When they say, well, what inspections do I need? We're gonna look at it and say, well, anything over 5 years, you need to talk to your insurance agent and say, do you need a 4-point, do you need a wind mitigation? And that's a reasonable number. You guys can answer that question, right? Anything over 5 years is.
Yeah, it's required to have them over 20 years, same with condos. You have to have, a wind mitigation will last 5 years if it's in your name. Even though it's on a house, it's weird that they require the name. And then remember, condos, if they have hurricane windows, he has to do your condo alone. You can't take it from the association, or they will not give that credit to you.
So that's kind of a Yeah, we do that a lot, which is kind of a weird thing, because they have an engineer do the entire building, because we can't see all the places, and they won't let us in all the places that we have to. Sometimes we can, but if they've gone and they've put in impact windows, when they do that first or that first window, they don't go through every unit and look at every window, so they don't get the window credit, which can be substantial in some of these condos that are, you know, up there in price, because that's how it works. So those are always good. We also are do construction inspections. We recommend those because your builder has a punch list. They're constantly doing a punch list and going through stuff to try to figure out what needs to get done, what needs to get done. We're another set of eyes, and we can go back in there, and we have a completely different perspective. We just did a house yesterday that now has a radon meter in it. We went through it, we found out, hey, guess what, we can't test the pool because it's not programmed. So I get on the phone with the contractor that did the pool. He goes, yeah, well, here's how you program it. So not the right guy for that job, I guarantee you. But you wanna know that stuff as far advanced as you can, because if you have a place, and this particular one was, I wanna say the bill was $4.5 million. So it's a monster, right? And you know, needless to say, we have the building manager walking around, come with us, we'll just walk everywhere with you to make their own list. The idea is that they get it ready in time for that client. But some of this stuff, you know, they don't see everything, they don't go everywhere we go. And so it's always good to have somebody take a look at that. Drywall is another part of that new construction inspection. We go in there when it's all studs, right after they put the windows in, that's what rolls when we want to go in. Everything's opened up. During your normal home inspection, we can't see behind the drywall and be able to tell you that that wire right there isn't hooked up right. But this is the time that we can.
Let me just say this though, certain new home builders won't let you do that. They will not allow an inspector. Lenore won't, what's the other one over there by Lenore, across the street, what's the name of them? I forgot. Not EMI, but it's another one over, Syntex. They won't let you do inspections until the home is complete. They will not let an outside inspector in.
Interesting.
So,
That's interesting.
yeah, they won't, you cannot go in those homes until after they've finished and they've done their punch out list with their inspectors. So there's no way with new homes under $500,000 to send an inspector in those subdivisions in those areas and see behind the walls and stuff before they go up.
That would be.
And I know from
Yeah, that
experience
would
with
be
the deals
something
I
that
do.
you would know more about than me, because I get it once they've already said, go in there. So I wouldn't even.
Yeah,
know that.
that's just for the
That
other
makes sense.
realtors to know, like when you're
Yeah.
doing new homes in the area, they're not gonna let you bring an outside inspector before the home is ready for the CO.
And there are, just to kind of add to that, there are a lot of things that we have to do to be able to get in there too. They're gonna wanna see our license number, they wanna make sure we have enough liability insurance,
Workers' comp.
Workers'
and,
comp,
or even our auto.
sometimes even our car insurance. You know, they really wanna take a really close look at you before they let you in the property.
So,
But it has gotten a lot better over the last few years. When I first started doing this, it was very adversarial. Now, it's like, yeah, just give me that punch list as soon as you can, because I'm gonna compare it to mine. We gotta get all this stuff done. These guys are a lot more interested in taking care of their clients now. That's my feeling more than, a thing, but, you know, it is going a lot better with those. And then we also do one right before, like you were saying, right before when we got the ready to, usually it's right after the certificate of occupancy, right before the closing on the house, you know, within a week or two of that little time period. We'll go in and we'll do a final punch list for them. And the one thing I would say is where we are pretty, we stick pretty much to the standards of Florida. We're very much into the cosmetic stuff too on those kind of inspections, because you got one shot at getting the builder to get it all done before you take a house. After the builder turns over the house, then it goes to their warranty department, and anything you have to get repaired goes through the warranty department. So we want to get as complete a list as possible of stuff for you to look at on those new builds, because that just works better for all the clients.
now I think talking a little bit about the attention to detail, is usually a whole house will take, hour, hour and a half for two people to go through. We're probably at a full 2 hours when we are doing a new build, and that is because we are looking a little more cosmetic than we usually would be. So that's just that attention to detail.
And again, we try to present that in a non-threatening way, so we're not scared, it's not a bad house, it's just, let's get the punch list all done right. If the paint is off a little bit in the garage, let's come and fix it now, while we don't have a carpenter. The last thing you need is somebody, fixing a cabinet while you're making breakfast. I mean, it's just not fun.
Does your fee include a re-inspection? Like if you come back
So
out?
it doesn't, and it depends on whether or not we need to come back out and what we need to do. We're pretty flexible. to be
Like you
honest.
would, like if we had, you did not necessarily an old or new house, just in general, and the homeowner got the punch list of the repairs, and they did the repairs, they took pictures of everything, and they sent it off to you guys. Like you do that type of situation, or you wanna come back out,
So
or?
something like that, we wouldn't charge for if they did something like that. If we go out, we do charge people for that. And then, again, we're kind of flexible with that. We really don't wanna charge people for a re-inspection. It's just sometimes you have stuff that, for instance, the other day we had one, we get out to the house, they didn't pay the water bill, the water shut off. And this was a duplex that the guys had to go through. We had a number of roofing issues, a number of plumbing issues. We thought, we weren't sure because we didn't have water. But then on top of that, a bunch of electrical stuff. And so with that one, it was like, yeah, we're gonna have to charge you, we're gonna have to go back out. That's gonna be almost another whole inspection because we're gonna have to not only verify we got hot water everywhere, but in addition to that, it was kind of a whole thing. And so I don't wanna categorically say we never charge because I don't wanna tell fibs, but at the same time, I try not to because nobody likes to be upcharged, nobody likes to be, to get there and find out you get another bill on top of it, but
Yeah.
we try to be reasonable.
You might have a trip charge sometimes, I'm sure, like,
Yeah, it's
it's not gonna be another whole bunch of money. 'cause you
Yeah,
don't just
we
check
try,
it.
we try to keep it reasonable, we don't want people to go crazy,
Yeah.
and we're not trying to chase your clients, so, that doesn't work either.
I think a prime example was when yesterday the guys went out and it was rental home. So they went out, they knocked on the door and said, okay, we're here to do the inspection. And the person said, no, you're not. Slammed the door. So I'm calling the agent saying, hey, they're not gonna let us in. Well, ended up that we do have to reschedule because the person's not gonna let them in, so they have to bring someone else out with them so they can get in, so we can do the inspection. So on something like that, we do have to charge because we have to pay our guys. So I just charge a trip fee. It's not gonna be, like you say, we try to keep it as, price effective as possible, but I needed to pay my guys that went out there. And so that's what we charge. And then they're gonna be out this coming Friday, so other people are gonna be there to make sure we can get in. So it's those kind of situations.
And then the last thing there is kind of hard to read is commercial inspections. We've done some pretty interesting commercial inspections from, places that, do custom cars. Where they were actually, they do complete renovations of cars. So if you have a '64 Corvette and you've wrecked it, and you wanna make it brand new with all the money, they did that. That was kind of a cool one. We've done pizza parlors, lots of daycare centers. Things like that, commercial inspections, it kind of depends on what people need. The one thing I will say about, commercial inspections is we don't do industry specific stuff. So like I went into a place that was a plastic surgeon's condo office and we did that inspection, but they wouldn't let me play with any of the cool stuff. Apparently, that kind of thing, you're supposed to have a doctor's license for. So what additional inspections do you need? So let me throw one thing out there before we do this. Every inspection, all of them we charge for all of them, some are expensive, some are not inexpensive. Every inspection is an opportunity for your client to say, oh my God, that house is horrible. So the more you add to it, just be aware that these are things that, you're gonna get a result of. Is water up there?
Yeah.
We do a water test. So you have an FHA loan, you gotta get an FHA water test, it comes back says coliforms are high. Coliforms, what are coliforms? Well, unless you've done a jillion water tests, you're not gonna know what coliforms are. Coliforms are little bacteria they can get into water. Now, if they're in there, you shock the well, it kills the coliforms, and you start over fresh. It's not really that big a deal. But coliforms, why is that important? Because coliforms, if coliforms can live in the water, so can E. coli, and E. coli we do know about, most of us know that that's gonna make us sick, right? And so you don't want that. But if you tell Roxanne you have coliforms, she doesn't know what coliforms are, but it's similar to E. coli, now she's afraid. You want to be aware, these tests all come with some kind of a negative aspect to it if we come across and find some. But a broker once, because I was saying, well, we don't really push people towards a lot of these different tests. And he said, you know what, that's the wrong attitude. He said, you need to provide whatever they want. And then we need to be able to manage our way through whatever we got to fix it. And
Do we have radon? I mean, not really.
yes,
Yes.
We do.
we do.
I thought only if you have in basements or something like that.
And that's what most people think.
Because we gotta do those evacuations of air or change their.
So my house has a 2.1, which is not at the action limit. The action limit is 4. We've had 4 or 5 houses in the last 2 years that are over that low. Not a lot. I mean, in comparison to up north, way less, way less. But, after going through the radon testing training, it's kind of interesting. First off, if you look at the radon map, that's the best way to do it. Radon map was made in the 80s. They used 6,000 houses in Florida. I don't think 6,000 houses is a good sample size for Sarasota, to be honest with you. But that some of the information behind it is really not that great. So it is something that surprisingly we're doing more and more radon testing. People from the north really like it too. 26,000 people a year get lung cancer due to radon in the United States. That's not cool. It's worse if you smoke. Do we go out there and drum up business for radon? Not really, but we can do it. We can test for you if it's important to people. And some people, it is very important to, especially if they're from up north and they're used to it. They really want to know. But it is an interesting thing, because up till now, I've always said the exact same thing until I went through that training. It was like, yeah, there's not really a chance of it here. There's no reason to do that test. That's ridiculous. It's hard. I had to subcontract that out. These people were some of the worst people I've ever worked with as far as subcontractors. I could never get them to pin down. It was ridiculous. On the other hand, when you do look at things, what do you need? I'm going to recommend a WDO on every house. Florida's land of bugs. God and St. Peter invent a new one. We have 72 eyes and 14 legs. You're going to say, drop it in Dennis to see what he does. I mean, it's just bugs are our thing here. It's not a bad idea to introduce people to somebody that does bugs. Sewer scoping. Not a bad idea. You'd be surprised. Think of it, I can see the surprise look. Think of it as a colonoscopy for your house. It is a way of seeing what's in that drain. And there's nothing worse than somebody moving in and we've ran water through it, and water will go past a lot of blockages and a lot of different types of drains. But you won't know for sure what's in there unless you do a sewer scope. Houses pre-78 may have cast iron underneath them. Cast iron has a lifespan of about 50 years, give or take. A crack in that or a collapsed line, again, may let plain water through, but then once they move in, bad things can happen. Or what we see more often is we put in the report, you have a slow drain in the kitchen, because we've run about 50 to 80 gallons of water through it now. The kitchen's giving you a slow drain. And so 3 months later, they said, hey, I had a guy sewer scope it, and he's saying underneath the house, there's the big tree in the backyard. It's cracked and got all this stuff in this cast iron line. water will go through it, plain water will, but without a sewer scope, you won't know what kind of shape that line's in. They're not cheap either, those are $500 range, I mean, they're not cheap. We subcontract that out with a plumber, we can do that ourselves, and we have. But a plumber usually can give you a different insight, and they can fix it.
And they can pull a toilet or something. if it
Yeah,
needs
which
to be
we
done.
can't. That's true. Same thing with the septic. Septic systems run about $10,000. It's not a bad idea if you have a septic system to have a septic person go out and look at that drain, the drain field. So what they do is they open the top of it, they make sure that all the parts on the top are working and functioning, like overflow alarms, things like that. And then they run water through it. And if you run water through it for, I wanna say it's 15 minutes, the level should not move. They should go out the drain field and go away. And that means it's working like it's supposed to. If they don't, drain fields are expensive, septic systems are expensive, you can expect $10,000 as a starting point if you had to replace all that stuff. So these are things that people may want to know about, may want to do. Pool and spa. The beauty of pool and spa is they're all set up differently. And every pool guy I've ever talked to, after we've inspected something they've done, said, any idiot knows that you just turn this on by hitting this switch, standing on one foot and spinning around 3 times. They're all set up a little different. Pool school is very important for people to make sure that when folks get done, that they learn how to operate their pool, because they can be very complicated. And I've run a lot of different pools, and they can be very complicated. I think everybody knows about mold. It's like the Florida thing too with the bugs. Most home inspectors will run what they call an air quality test of some sort. Basically, we have a little air pump. We'll suck in 150 liters of air through it's a little plastic puck. All of the spores and dust that's in that room will get caught on that, and then we send it up to a lab. The lab looks at it, and they have a person there that'll tell you what flavor it is and how many of them you got and all that stuff. And it gives you an idea of whether or not you have mold or have had a water intrusion. Then there'll be direct sampling too. You can take a piece of tape, stick it on it, pull the mold sample up, or a swab, just like during COVID. You know, got to same basic principle. Send it off, and they'll tell you what flavor, how much, and whether or not you need to remediate. As a rule, the legal rule is if it's less than 10 square feet, the homeowner can fix it himself. If it's more than 10 square feet, it needs to be remediated in a real estate deal. Most of you will run into the, oh my God, we found mold. And they're like, no, you're not letting John do that himself. You have to have somebody that knows what they're doing. But almost always that's how that kind of goes down. So it's stuff to be aware of. And again, what we try to do with all of these, because they are fairly complex, is we're gonna send you the report, read the report, call me. Because you're gonna wanna talk through it. You're gonna wanna understand what we're seeing and how bad it, okay, you got mold, is it bad? You know, those are questions that people need help kind of working their way through and understanding it. If you know, they have good information and people are willing to spend a little bit of time, most people can be talked off the cliff, you know?
So what happened with those properties that you said or mentioned that were out of range in radon? How do they fix that?
What they do is they do a radon mitigation system. So if you go on to Florida Department of Health, they have a list of people that are certified to build radon mitigation systems. And essentially what they'll do is somewhere in the house or right on the outside of it, they cut a hole so that they can get under the slab. And then they vacuum, just basically put a fan, very similar to a bathroom fan, on a pipe, and it draws the air out from under the slab and shoots it up over the house.
And that has to
And
be
that dissipates the radon.
Okay, but that has to keep on running all the time? That's a permanent
Yeah,
system.
they have, and I'm not an expert on mitigation systems. I think they run like they'll run for, like a bathroom fan. They'll run for a certain amount of time, then they'll shut off, and they'll run for a certain amount of time. And it's like I said, it's very rare here, but that's kind of how they do it. They do it up north by putting like a sump pit in type of thing and sealing all that up. The other thing they do is they'll seal up any cracks they can find in the house, anything that they can do to not allow that gas into the house. But I'm not, again, I'm not an expert on that, it's just, that's just the.
Yeah,
it's
I was
just
just curious.
How the heck do you fix a slab, right? I mean, it's 4 to 6 inches of
Yeah.
solid concrete with rebar in it, so how do you do that? Yeah, it's kind of tricky, but yeah, it's gonna be basically a fan that they blow it up in the house.
Thank you.
So again, when you're looking for your inspectors, you know, there are a handful of things that should be in your inspection report. I know from ours, we're gonna go through roof and plumbing and HVAC and electrical, and these are all mandated by, what we call the Florida Standards of Practice. All the home inspectors, we all have to be proficient and provide a report that meets the standards of practice. I would recommend that they're not doing the handwritten reports. I still see those every once in a while.
I see Heather shake her head, that's what made me put that in, because you were saying.
You
that
still
said
get
that.
handwritten
Yeah, you still get
reports.
handwritten reports.
Yeah.
Take copied photos, and they're not accepted.
But it's.
It's
From the
usually-
past, 1978, that was the way to do it, I'm telling you.
Uncle John has a license, and he's gonna do it, and those are the ones you get in the most trouble with. So if you see a handwritten one, you might as well just order another one.
Yeah, there's a lot of technology today. You wanna, whoever you pick for a company, make sure that they're, you know, there's a handful of things that a home inspection company, even if you choose not to use us, pick somebody that's well and true. Because, you know, you recommended them. It makes a difference. You recommended them. There's somebody somewhere is gonna say, you told me to use this guy. So make sure they're well insured. Make sure that they've done a few inspections, like Rox was saying. Make sure that they understand the industry, not only ours, but yours. Because if we go in there, oh my God, like our hair's on fire, you're gonna lose the deal. And that's not cool for any of us, right? I mean, it's not. Anyway, so standards of practice will be the report, and it's gonna be the main things you would see in the report. One of the things that we're not required to put in the report, and we should be really cautious about putting in the report, is cosmetic problems. If paint's really ugly, that's none of our business.
That's everything.
Yeah, right? If, you know.
The grout's too far apart, remember the one?
Oh, yeah, we had one where, I mean, this very nice lady, and I did a number of inspections for her, because she was quite picky with her house. She didn't like the grout lines, they were like a quarter of an inch, and she thought they should be an eighth of an inch, and I mean, she wanted me to put that in the report, because that's structural, and it's, but everybody's got their own kind of perspective, right? So you wanna make sure that the cosmetic stuff, we're not gonna put cosmetic in for you, and
Except,
I'm sorry?
except new construction.
Yeah, except for the new construction, but as a rule, that kind of stuff, you don't wanna, I mean, you're gonna have to already negotiate through a bunch of stuff. Rich saying that he doesn't like the pink paint, I mean, that, you don't need my help with that, right? I mean, that's just gonna make it worse for you. And the reason I say that is, we bought a house that was 3 colors of pink. We painted the whole house, it was awesome, we made 50 grand, just painting the house. Because it was 3 colors of pink when we bought it, it was awful. And then why are things checked and why are they not? Why did we put this in the report, why did we not? Home inspectors tend to use, for instance, a quick and dirty test on HVAC systems. We're gonna look at the air going into it, and then we're gonna look at the air going out of it. There should be 15 degrees difference on the cooling. So if it's 70 going in, we need 55 coming out. If it's doing that, that means the system, generally speaking, is doing its job. And it's going to work fine. If it's less than that, you need to get an HVAC tech out to look at it. It doesn't mean that they need a new $10,000 system. It means they need a $95 service call probably to just do a little tune-up, right? So again, why is it checked? Why not check it? You know, we've had HVAC systems that were 30 years old, so they're like a you should take that out. There's gotta be a museum somewhere for the HVAC guys, you know, but, how long does it take to be delivered? When's it available? One of the main complaints we hear is that people take forever to get a report back. You know, we say 24 hours, but it's usually same day. I mean, when I say usually same day, I can't remember the last time we didn't do same day. But, you know, that's an important question for people to ask, is you guys have a inspection period, and if it takes them 3 days to get it back, and you have 5 days, and it's Wednesday, and that was Friday, that, you know, the math doesn't work. And then we typically email it to you through a link, because they're big. That's the other thing. Sometimes it's hard for people to look at. So you get a link that you can open up, because they're big. They have a lot of pictures in them. All the reports, all the monitor reports should be big, yes.
When they call you, how long does it take to usually get to them? Couple days or 1 day or?
Oh, you mean for the inspection itself?
Yeah. Are
It
they
almost
scheduled?
never works one day, because I got time at noon. Nobody's ready. You're not ready. You're not. I don't have time at noon. What are you talking about? But yeah, 2 days. We try to work 2 days, but you know, it's not as bad as it was a few years ago. A few years ago, it was just like, man, you better be getting in the truck right now and on your way somewhere else.
Do you do weekends?
We will if I'm around. My guys don't work weekends. They're pretty much.
So that's
yeah,
3 days
I
right
have to
there.
drag
If it's
them
a,
by the hair to get them there. But yeah, I do them.
Get us then.
Yeah.
Get one of us.
But it just kind of depends on how that works out, and that, you know, also depends on.
And one caveat to that is, it's whole house inspections, we don't do insurance inspections on weekend. So if someone wanted a whole house swim at 4 Point, that's fine, but you call up and say, I'd like to get a 4 Point on Saturday, we don't do that.
okay.
Either way, so there's gonna be a handful of things that we're gonna have for the buyer. One, we're gonna ask them to sign the inspection agreement. It says what we do, what we don't do. It also makes my insurance happen. It is the trigger for my insurance. So, for us, that's absolutely critical. We have to have that signed. We're gonna follow the standards of practice. You can look that up. There's actually a link to it, I believe, in the agreement, so they can look at it. And this says what a Florida home inspector is required to look at. Doesn't go into what they're not, but what they're required to. Scope of inspection, that's just, again, that's expanding on the standards of practice. The scope is basically what we do and don't do. Is there anything else that is abnormal? So think of it as your house is the house itself. So if there's a mother-in-law suite that's off in the back, you should tell us, because in our agreement, it says we're gonna do the house itself. Your 4 Point says we're going to do the house itself. Your windmill says the house itself. Oh, you have a pool house? The windmill says we do the house itself. That's how we're supposed to do it. Can we do that? Absolutely, but tell us. Tell us so that we know, otherwise we may not, because
We just don't know.
the guys get in work, go out to the house. You know, if you have, like a large barn, a lot of horse properties out there on the east side, you know, we'll do them, we're happy to, but we gotta know, they gotta tell us, because otherwise we're just gonna do what the normal home inspection is. And then, like I said, everything, you know, it all has a cost, of course. So we're gonna be there, we asked for 2 hours. We asked for 2 hours. If it's a 500-foot condo and we're only doing the interior, we're gonna say we're gonna be there for 2 hours. Well, we probably not, but we'd like to have a 2-hour block. We make it a point to not do that, we're gonna be there between noon and 7. You know, it's not that kind of thing. If we say we're gonna be there at noon, we're gonna be there at noon, unless 75 is backed up, which is pretty big out, right? I mean, 75 is always backed up, but we're gonna be there on time. Most inspections take 90 minutes, give or take. should the buyer attend the inspection? So, one thing I will say about that, there's a handful of things with the inspection that you might wanna think about. I'm not gonna let you up in the attic with me, you can't go on the roof, you'd be surprised how many times I turn around, "Ooh, sir, with all due respect, you have to get off of this roof." My insurance lady will stab me in the neck with a pencil if she finds out that I let you climb on my ladder, that's just not going to work out for her. So we wanted to make sure people that are contained, right, that they don't do anything foolish, cause it's amazing what you see folks do. I was up on one and part of the house was 2 stories, and I've been on a lot of roofs walking without being tied up. And I turned around and this guy's behind me and he's quiet as a cat, I'm telling you. It's like, buddy, you gotta get down, you're scaring me, you know? Or you'll start going under a house and somebody, you know, sweet little old guy that's 85 wants to go with you. And it's just like, this isn't a team building exercise. You need to stay out there, I'll tell you, and be pictures. But anyway, all that, I recommend that they do show up. I don't think it's a bad idea. That way they feel like, 1, we've looked at everything, and 2, they can ask questions if they have those at the time. And that is good. And having that rapport with us builds trust with you, with me, with them. On the other hand, anybody here been to an inspection? Is it not the most boring thing you've ever watched? Watch the guy go around. I mean, the first time is kind of interesting, and after that, that interest goes down really fast. And
Do you go over the 4-point issues with the client, or you
yes,
just?
we do. Before we leave, if you have a defect, something we call a defect, we say, yes, this is what we see. And sometimes that becomes a bone of contention if you have the seller there, but it is what it is. I mean, everybody wants to know, Pascal, did you or did you? So I just really kind of beat it into the guys, you gotta just tell them, because don't walk out of the house and they don't know that, because they're gonna go, everything's fine. And they'll hand it to Heather, and then they go, everything's not fine.
We get that a lot, no one told us.
Yeah, good. That, and then the other thing that I heard a lot of complaints about is like when you do plumbing, okay, there's a picture of 10 different sinks, which one's which? That's the one that makes a lot of people very lazy too, so we try to label all of those, and we tell them, these are the 3 defects, these are the things you have to look at, okay? So those are all things that need to be done. Recommend the buyer attends. We don't care if the seller's there or not, that's you guys' room completely, it doesn't matter to us. But I will say that we use everything to find out what we need to about the house, so if we talk to the seller and he says, yeah, well, I replaced that roof because a meteor hit the house, that's gonna be in the report. Because anything we can find out about the house that we can pass on and give that information, it's all fair game. So just, you know, be aware, sometimes the sellers say, well, I told him that, but I didn't think he would tell you. And it's just like, yeah, well, we're working for him. So a lot of times what people do is bring in the last hour of the inspection, your clients. Cuts down on the boredom, cuts down on the chit chat time, you know, because you guys probably will be keeping them company while we're doing this, so. That last half hour allows us time to find out something, because typically, we're getting out of the car, we're carrying our tools over the house, well, what do you think? No thoughts yet, man, no thoughts yet, we still have a few minutes before we looked at anything. So, you know, other than giving us a chance to get in there, do they need to be present for the entire inspection? Not really, a lot of people just show up the last half hour. Some people wanna be there the whole time, either way, it's just fine, we don't care. Same thing with the sellers, we don't care if they're there. We're gonna do, we have a path, and we're gonna stay on that path, regardless of who's in the room. If the client has things that they're specifically concerned about, you know, your disclosure list, a lot of times will give them things that they're specifically want us to check. They had a leak in the back bedroom, up in the roof, you make sure you take a good look for that. And of course, that always helps, because we don't, you know, there's not a You can't go online, get the house information that says, oh, there was a leak in the back there. I mean, there's no information like that. We don't have that information. It also does give us a chance to set expectations, because home inspection is a snapshot in time. It's what's happening today. So 6 months from now, if there's all the shingles fall apart, we're not gonna know that. We're buried today. And it allows us to set those expectations for folks. Also, the expectation is that they haven't bought the house yet, so I can't break things to look at it. A lot of times people want you to go inside the wall. Yeah.
It might be a weird question, but let's say like the wood frame houses. Let's say somebody's selling it as is, and they put in the seller disclosure, and they're letting everybody aware of maybe WDO. Are the inspectors allowed to come and just like tear up everything and put their foot through the floor and put their hand through the ceiling? No.
We can't break anything.
So if they do, like, is that something? So right. So because a lot of them, I feel like they think it's like, I don't know.
So in your agreement, you have a clause, and I would bet that you guys are better at knowing that agreement than I do. But if we break something during the inspection period, the buyer, the potential buyer, is responsible for it. If somewhere in that agreement when we sign that, there's a clause in there that says that the buyer is responsible.
Yeah, of course. But even with when you could see like that it's obvious like termite.
So
People think, oh no, it was already destroyed. I'm just opening it more so you can see it.
So I tell people, don't do that.
Yeah.
My guys won't do that. And none of the guys that we subcontract would open it more. Now, have I ever seen somebody do it? Absolutely. Have I ever come across people that do something like that? I have, but at the end of the day.
You just feel bad for the seller. It's like.
Right, and it's not our house, it's not the potential buyer's house yet. So we have to be real careful not to break anybody's stuff and not to damage it. In fact, ideally, we go into the house, we do the inspection, we sneak out. Nobody knows we've been there other than the fact that they get a report afterwards, right? I mean, that's ideally how it should work. And a lot of houses, that's how we do it. We have Supra, so we go to the house, the agents aren't there, the buyer's not there, the seller's not there. We go through, we do our stuff, and we're out. If we do our job right, they can't tell that we've been there. But yeah, we don't want to destroy stuff. We don't want to break it.
That's not the professional way to go.
It is not the professional way to go, and you don't want to leave.
So it wouldn't be crazy to like go after them and be like, hey, we told you not to do that. You went and did that. You guys like owe some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's how that works. I mean, there's one or two ways you can, I'm not paying for that. And
It's usually the buyer's inspector.
right.
Yeah.
I'm not paying for that. And then, you definitely probably lose the buyer, you lose the realtor, all their friends. I mean, it's not a good way to go. I mean, in the real world, we're going into places and we're climbing around stuff that is specifically risky, right? Home inspectors that step through ceilings, that's probably a fairly common.
Could be an accident.
Break
Yeah.
water lines. Everybody replumbs through the attic, and then we gotta go walk through there. And when you teach somebody how to walk an attic, that little move right there keeps you from stepping on water lines. You kick that insulation off of it. But you'd be surprised. I did one house not too long ago. We did mold because the roofing guy was in the attic, stepped on water, broke it. And it takes a minute to get. You're in the attic. You broke the line. It takes a minute to get out. I mean, unless you want to go, you got to go slow. They're responsible for fixing it. It's unfortunate. That's why when we said earlier you have to have insurance. State of Florida, especially we carry 300,000. We carry $1 million because 300,000. Some of the condos I've been in this last couple of weeks, 300,000 wouldn't scratch. Especially if you're on the 5th floor and you can't shut that water off for 10 minutes. I mean, it's going to get down to the 3rd floor for sure. So, yeah, there's insurance. We're responsible for it, and nobody who's professional is going to break through something. Into the inspection, we should spend a couple minutes with the client if we are there and explain to them what we found. I always tell people read the entire report because the summary will be the things that I think are important, things that I've heard them express that were important, but you might have something in there that they're not happy about, but it might be on page 32. And so read the entire report. And then for any areas of concern, if we're there, we can walk over and say, see this outlet, that's the one that didn't work. And that helps people if we can do that. See this area, this is where the water comes. So,
I went over some of this.
yeah, I think we probably did, but as a rule, I answer calls between inspections, so if you call, I call you back when I'm driving to the next one, so that's how I do it. Other people do it, I'm sure, different ways, also I answer in the evenings, sometimes in the evenings, in my effort to make sure all reports go out the same day, I may not be on the phone with talking. And then good inspector provides a path to good solutions. I think of the inspector myself as, if you watch a football game, you got those guys out there with the striped shirts, and they're like, offsides, passing interference. That's kind of where we're at. The difference is we should help provide a path to solutions. I would recommend to each of you to find a team that helps people get from point A to, I just bought a house. And that might mean you need a painter and a plumber and an electrician. And for us, we can help with all that stuff. But having that group of people that you trust, as a rule, I always tell people, plumbers, we refer, I have no idea what they charge. I'm assuming it's too much. It's just, that's the way plumbers are. It's the only job in the world where they take an 18-year-old kid, put him in a, $150,000 Sprinter van, and then put $300,000 worth of tools in it, tell them to drive around town until they find something broken. But it's all expensive. But if they're honest and they do good work and they stand behind it, that's what you're looking for. And that's what we try to help point people towards, our friends that do that sort of stuff. Am I still going?
That or I can move, which you want.
Doesn't matter to me.
We're talking, this is more of things that we're gonna ask when we are scheduling it. Contact information and property details, of course, to be able to schedule and be able to price prices. We definitely need that signed agreement before we can start the inspection. So that's one thing that's very important, so to be signed. Access to the property, is it on Supra, is there gate codes, things like that, that we'll need to know. And then utilities on, that's one thing, a big thing, please make sure the utilities are on, so we can get everything done for you. And also, a key is, are there any pets? Because we don't want, all of a sudden, someone will have a couple of cats, and then one goes running out, because we didn't know. We want to keep those doors, closed and open, not open, if you've got animals or things like that. Sometimes, of course, if they're bigger animals, depending on if they're, they like people or not, if they don't like people, they need to be contained in a cage or something.
They like people the way they taste. We're opposed to that.
Yeah, we don't.
Or if they're really quick runners, that's the other thing, because I used to be able to catch them, but not as spry as I used to be.
Kind of, this was already talking about, this is a question we will ask. If you are on the seller side and the property's having inspection, please make sure the utilities are on. That's gonna make it so we're out there one time instead of having to come back to do a re-inspection because either electricity's not on or, water, they had no water, those kind of things. If we know ahead of time, then we'll get it scheduled properly compared to having to go out that 2 times to get your report done.
The other thing there, pilot lights lit, so theoretically, we're not supposed to start anything that's gas. So if you have a water heater that's off, we're really not supposed to start that because then you've just asked your home inspector to take responsibility for any fire or any problem with that issue. We want to avoid that. We'd like you to have all that stuff on. So anything that's not accessible or shut down, so obviously, we're not gonna be able to look at stuff that's not accessible, right? So condos, access to the roof. Of course, if it's a pitched roof, it's not a big deal, but you'd be surprised how many condensers are up there, and Heather wants a picture of the condenser. She also needs a picture of the roof, and with those things not there, if we can't get there from here, that gets really tricky. So access to the roof is a pretty big deal. With condos and stuff, a lot of times it's just locked up. We can't go through there. So you wanna try to make sure that is all possible. We had an interesting one yesterday where it's in the home, water heater's outside, it's in this metal box. And we literally took 40 screws out of the box to get the lid off so we could finally get to the, ideally, we want a little more accessible than that. And we'll probably tell the new buyer, you gotta make it a little more accessible than that, because if you need to get to that, shut it off and hurry, that's not gonna happen.
And key element here is talking about property access, is we are able to get all to all the areas that we need to do the inspection. If the seller's there and they say, I do not want you in that bedroom, we can't go in there. So we're not gonna be able to go into one. So it's just that communication between both parties, making sure we have access everywhere, or if there isn't gonna be access, it's hopefully already communicated on both sides in the agreements there for you guys, so, because we can't get in the middle of that piece. That's really property access.
Yeah, and access can be a couple of different things, you know, there's the normal stuff. Condos, for instance, they almost always have an owner's closet, you know. One little closet really shouldn't make a big difference. If the rest of the house is awesome, that one little closet probably is not gonna make you not want to buy the place, right? But if we can't get in, we're just gonna say we can't get in. And then also, so there's a lot of times too, there's storage, little storage units, storage areas, those will be padlocked up. So those should be open. And we are gonna go up in your attic. That would be the one thing I would tell people. And without going into a bajillion details, people store things in their attic that they may or may not want the rest of the world to know. We don't care, we're not the police department, it's none of our business. We're gonna look at your attic though, or we're gonna say we're not, because if they say you can't go up there, we're not gonna start an argument with them.
Please don't have the skeleton right there in the attic, so my husband's got lots of gray hair, he doesn't need it.
No, it's a true story, right? I went into this one house and they had these really cool porcelain dolls. It was like the whole fireplace and it's set up with all these porcelain dolls. I'm like, those are cool. Creepy, but cool, right? So I go up there and I'm going up into the attic and I get up there and the light doesn't work. So I get my flashlight shiner on. Literally a little doll coffin with a little coffin doll in it, just sitting there. Yeah, it was awful. I thought, come back out this. Yeah, it was all bad. It was all bad. Anyway, you had to be there, but it was extra creepy. Anyway, so you can see all those places right there. I think we talked about all of them. And there's a couple of things too about water heaters. Some of them are behind stoves. So if you go into a lot of the condos out here, there'll be a kind of an L shape. The oven will be on one side of the dishwasher on the other. You can't get in the dishwasher side. You have to pull the stove out and you go under the cabinet to get to that. There's no way for anybody else to know that probably, but if it's there, we're gonna pull that stove out. That's the only thing we can do. And then water heaters sometimes people don't like to look at them, so they box them. Just make sure the box is removable, because pulling 700 nails and then trying to bang them back in with your flashlight is really hard. Let me do that. Okay, so findings. Let's talk about what we found. So anything that we find, of course, we're going to pass along. That's disclosed. How you guys negotiate is kind of with you, or sometimes you need somebody to help you find somebody that can give you a price to fix something. and how you would correct it. And this is mostly looking at, pre-inspections here, but I mean, either way, whether it's pre or post, you know, we can try to help you. The one thing I would say is, you know, some things that we find end up on the disclosure list, right? I mean, it just does. I mean, bad roof leak. If you didn't know about it, it's gonna have to be disclosed from now on. Oh, let's see. So you can see up there, there's a lot of things with the pre-listing. It gives you a chance to look at what's there, what's not, fix things that you wanna fix. Gives people confidence. And it can help with that negotiating. It's another way to differentiate yourself from the guy that doesn't have one of these. Having that pre-listing inspection can help out quite a bit. We've been pretty successful with them. Insurance inspection.
Okay, so this is where, Heather, would you like to come up and talk a little bit about insurance inspections and why they're important?
All right, so for us, we have to have a 4-point if it's 20 years or older. We highly recommend getting it 10 years and older, just because we wanna see the condition of the roof, okay? And also, the things that go on the 4-point are only the things that go on the 4-point. We have a lot of inspectors out here, that put things that are not supposed to go on the 4-point, and it causes a big issue. So you wanna make sure that you're using a company that's worth using, like we use them all the time, we see their reports, they're very easy to read. And also, with wind mitigations, we always say if you put a new roof on, or if you, have a roof that's, 11 years or older as well, because you wanna get those credits, okay? Wind mid credits, and even if there's no credits on the wind mid, we're gonna send you and show you how you can get those credits. So they're gonna save you a lot of money.
You might wanna explain to some people what wind mitigation.
You guys know what wind mitigation is? So wind mitigation has a roof that's connected to the walls. He would probably be better telling you that. The funny thing is, I always say I'm a contractor. If I have a 4-point wind in front of me, take that away. I don't know what I'm talking about. So we live off these reports. And also, you don't want someone that's, oh, let me call my friend. They're gonna pass the 4-point. That's gonna kill your client so much. You want someone that knows exactly what they're doing, and you have to have at least 5 years of life left on the roof. Okay? It used to be 3, now it's 5. With the wind mitigation, you're gonna see how the roof's connected to the walls, and there's a clip that goes on there. It has 2 nails. It's considered a toenail. If you have that 3rd nail, then it's considered a clip. You're gonna get more of a discount for the clip than you are for hurricane protection. Because a lot of people wanna just put in new windows and save money. No, it's easier just to save it from the 3rd nail. Okay? Anything else you want me to add?
Nope, like whatever was beneficial for you.
Yeah. One of the things I will say, as soon as you're under contract, hire them, get them in there. And the 4-point, even if it has issues, you're gonna send it to me, or any insurance agent you have, but you have to make sure, because some people see, issues and won't quote. We quote, we come up with solutions. Some of our carriers were able to get things done with the contract, improved, before hurricane season. After hurricane season goes, it's all hot. Same with binding your insurance. You have to bind it before a storm comes. If you don't, they'll have to come back out and inspect again, okay? And they talk about the second charge, you're gonna have to do it again, start from scratch. So this is gonna save yourself money and your client money. Get your 4 points, get the insurance bound, make it happen as soon as you can. You can always change the effective dates, okay? And one more thing, like we said earlier, I always tell the story because we had an inspector put a chandelier over the bathroom. That's not a 4-point issue, but since they put it on the 4-point, it's now an issue,
Yeah,
okay?
it just became a 4-point issue.
Yes, because they put stuff on there that's not supposed to be, so use the people you like and trust, okay? And they are great at it, so, thank you.
No, and that is so important when you do the 4 points. People say, well, why do a 4-point? Why would I do a whole house inspection when I can get a 4-point? Because I am going to put on blinders, and I'm gonna do the 4-point. And I'm gonna do the 4-point with blinders on. It's not to cheat anybody or to trick anybody. It's because Heather has a certain set of criteria she has to look at. Anything I tell her to look at, she has to look at. But these are the things she's supposed to look at. So if we can keep that to what the insurance companies want us to look at, there's less things that can cause problems with her getting insurance. She'll be able to get you insurance quicker, easier, and more effectively.
And also make sure you have someone who can pick up the phone. There's an inspector that a lot of people use. When you call them, his voicemail says, "I will not speak to any insurance agent." So, that's the majority of our job. So, you know, it's great, I can email Roxy, I can call her, I can walk down the hall to her. So that's very important, and you guys might not think it is now, but it will be on one of the houses you get stuck on, and you're gonna need to communicate.
And I will say that we get a lot of people, because the phones come to me after 5 o'clock, and so I surprise people when I'll say home team inspections, oh, I got a person. Yep, you get me, because, we do answer the phones even after 5 o'clock. Now, here's what you do, you're really, you know,
So one of the things that we started doing, again, trying to provide a better service for our clients. It happens very rarely, but every once in a while we'll go in. We got pictures, you've got 110 degrees from your water heater, everything looks good, we're happy. You guys go to close, it's been 2 months and water heater's only giving, I don't have anything over 70 degrees. What's going on? Well, water heater doesn't. What we started doing was we partnered with it's actually Forge, and they provide us, it's basically a 90-day warranty, so that if something dies in between closing and when we do our inspection, these are all, I mean, we're not gonna buy you a roof, but if for the next 3 years you get a roof leak, there's $3,000 in the kitty for that sort of repair. And a repair, to be fair, repairs can cost $500. They usually start at $5 for a roof and they go up to whatever.
I mean, obviously, there's a hurricane, it doesn't count.
Yeah, and right, and the other thing is if we say, hey, water heater's not working, then closes, you go, hey, I want that warranty on the water heater not working. It doesn't, yeah, if it's mentioned in the report, of course, that doesn't mean that it died afterwards. But there is a, the repair piece for 5 years on the roof. That's the main reason why we went ahead and joined this, was because that 5 years on the roof is really a nice thing, because, you know, roofs take a beat here. And mold is another one. This will help if you get to where you have mold after the fact. So people have moved out, the house is sitting, you know, the washing machine hose is dripping, and boom, you got mold. So this is kind of a helpful thing. Sewer guard's a little bit different. That is the sewer scope that I was talking about before. If something happens in that, you have a period of time where you can take advantage of that. And if you get a scope, it lasts longer than if you don't, because we test it in the fact that we run roughly between 50 and 100 gallons of water through the sewer system. And, you know, assuming nothing backs up, the sewer guard is in place too. And so if you have a problem, like I said, in that first 90 days, that can be helpful. It can be a good thing for your client to have.
And so one thing about, people ask, well, how much does this package cost? It's no cost to the client. We add this free of charge. It's just something that we feel is a good protection, especially like when we talk about the roofs, things like that. Have up to a 5-year on repairs, I think is really valuable. But we do have packages, so if someone wants a package, that's when this warranty package will kick in. So for us, if you do a whole house 4-point wind mitt, you get the warranty package. If you do a whole house 4-point wind mitt and WPO, you get all of that plus the recall check. So it's kind of a nice way to do it. We have packages that actually are discounted in price because you're doing a package from us, and then in addition, you get the warranty package along with it. Just kind of a new system we started last year. That it just, again, gives it a little more ease for the client to know that there's something out there once they've closed.
And it's some of it's kind of funny, because we're kind of house geek type. I kind of think it's interesting to get the recall check, because it looks at all the appliances. Basically, we send in the serial number of all the appliances in the house, and they'll tell you if there's a recall on it. I mean, it makes sense, right? There's databases on everything. It's just a matter of taking this number and running it against the database. There's nothing to it, but.
But you do just a 4-point wind mitt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we will do just a 4-point and wind that we can do separately. We can do
Because I have some guys that they're contractors, they just need to make sure